One of the few marks of being an accomplished star of the basketball court is that you write a book. Or in today's world, you have a documentary produced to highlight your successful career. MJ has one, Kobe, LeBron, Shaq, Magic and Bird, Bill Russell, even Steph Curry, and Hakeem Olajuwon wasn't any different. Recognized as one of the greatest players in NBA history, Hakeem is a consensus top 15 player of all time. So in '96, after winning back-to-back NBA titles, he dropped a book titled Living the Dream, My Life and Basketball, the title being a callback to his nickname on the court. In this book, Hakeem touches on so many important subjects, such as his journey from Lagos to the US in pursuit of a basketball career, his time in the NCAA with his Phi Slama Jama fraternity, why he's not a fan of trash talking, and his in-depth thoughts on some of the best players he shared the court with, NBA legends like Shaq, Kareem, Moses Malone, and Patrick Ewing. In almost 300 pages of interesting narratives and stories from cover to cover, Hakeem Olajuwon penned down words that will bring the reader into his world as an NBA star, a man of faith, and his everyday life. And one more thing, the dream was about a trade move that, if it had been successful, would have altered the history of the NBA as we know it, a trade involving Michael Jordan, Clyde Drexler, and Ralph Sampson. But to understand the circumstances around this trade, we have to go all the way back to the 1983 season. After dominating college basketball for 3 straight years, the man who many thought would be a generational star declared for the NBA draft. Ralph Sampson was expected to revolutionize the center position and drew comparisons to legends Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain. A 7'4" giant with unusual basketball skills, Ralph was destined to be the original Wembayama. Coming into the draft, Ralph was chosen with the first pick by the rebuilding Houston Rockets team, who were 2 years removed from losing the NBA Finals and 1 year removed from losing the chairman of the board, Moses Malone. And they had also finished the previous season with just 14 wins. In his first year as an NBA player, Sampson averaged 21 points and 11 rebounds while playing all 82 games of the season, dropping 25 points and 10 rebounds in more than 15 games. He did not have a Wilt-type rookie season, not a lot of people could, but he was special enough to make All-Star in his rookie year and win the Rookie of the Year award. But his efforts only helped the Rockets to win an extra 15 games, finishing last in the Western Conference and holding the 4th worst record in the league. This helped the Rockets to win the coin toss that gave them rights to the first pick in the draft for the 2nd year in a row, and this is where things got interesting. Remember the 1983 draft I mentioned earlier? While Ralph Sampson was the most hyped player coming in, there were other notable future NBA legends. First we have Dale Ellis, the original Steph Curry. Dale was selected 9th by the Mavs and went on to have a pretty good career, averaging almost 16 points on 40% shooting from the 3-point line. At the time, he held the NBA record for most threes with 1,719 made threes, and also became the first player in NBA history to complete 2 4-point plays in one game, a true legend of the game. Well done, Dale. Then there was Jeff Malone, who had a pretty solid career averaging 19 points, and the man we all know too well, Doc Rivers, the one-time NBA champion as a coach who never really did much as an NBA player. But also available in this draft was Clyde Drexler, a former college teammate of Hakeem Olajuwon. Clyde and Hakeem were a part of the Phi Slama Jama fraternity and had led the Houston Cougars to 2 straight NCAA Final Four appearances before he declared for the draft. On draft day, Clyde was selected with the 14th pick by the Portland Trail Blazers, and he went on to average just 8 points on minimal playing time as a rookie. Unlike the Rockets, the Blazers made the playoffs before Clyde Drexler got there, and they made the playoffs in his rookie year. They were a good team, but they weren't good enough to get past the 2nd round, and this was why they proposed a trade. While the Rockets got the first pick of the '84 draft, the Indiana Pacers had the 2nd pick, but they had traded their rights to the pick a couple of seasons ago to the Trail Blazers. The Trail Blazers needed to make a move to become real contenders in the Western Conference that had the Showtime Lakers, so they put together a trade offer good enough to get them who they thought was the missing piece, the talented and promising 2nd-year center, Ralph Sampson. For Ralph, the Blazers were willing to part with the 2nd pick and Clyde Drexler, who they did not really need at the time because they had Jim Paxson as their shooting guard. According to Hakeem, if the Rockets had accepted the trade, they would have chosen him with the 1st pick and Michael Jordan with the 2nd pick, forming a young talented trio of Hakeem Olajuwon at center with Michael Jordan and Clyde Drexler at the backcourt. But the Rockets refused the trade, and Portland went ahead to pick Sam Bowie ahead of MJ. In hindsight, this seems like a poor decision by both teams. First, the Rockets for keeping Ralph Sampson, who had only 3 good seasons, and secondly, the Trail Blazers picking Sam Bowie over MJ. But the reason for both their decisions was the same: the big man. Back in the 70s and 80s down to the 90s, the NBA was the league of big men. It's the reason why most people's list of the top 15 players in NBA history is made up of mostly centers and power forwards. Unlike today's game that favors guards and spacing and uses the big man as a glorified screener and pick and roll merchant, the NBA before the turn of the century favored big men who could protect the rim, crash the boards, and score inside the arc efficiently. And what's better than having a big man? Having two big men. The Rockets saw a chance of creating something special by having 7'4" Ralph Sampson and 7' Hakeem Olajuwon leading the team, and so they formed the first twin tower of the NBA before David Robinson and Tim Duncan, and for a brief period of time, their experiments worked. In Hakeem's rookie year, he and Ralph Sampson played off each other to lead the Rockets to the playoffs for the first time in 3 years, and in just his second year, they made the NBA Finals, beating Magic and Kareem's Lakers in the Western Conference Final, and losing to Bed's Celtics in the championship series. But in their third year together, Ralph had a devastating knee injury that would ultimately lead to him being traded a year later and bringing an end to whatever plans the Rockets had. In the case of the Trailblazers, they had won their first championship in the 1977 season with Bill Walton playing at center and winning the Finals MVP, averaging 19 points, 19 rebounds, 5 assists and 4 blocks per game. The formula of having a domineering center lead the charge had proved to be successful for NBA teams, but most importantly, it had won the Trailblazers their first championship, and it seemed like a reliable template that would work if successfully replicated. So on draft day, when the organization was presented with the choice of Michael Jordan, a promising shooting guard who played similarly to Clyde Drexler, and Sam Bowie, a national sensation in high school and outstanding collegiate and Olympic team member, who had edged out Ralph Sampson to win the National Player of the Year award in high school, the decision was a no-brainer. They went with Sam Bowie. The Blazers were so sold on the idea of getting a center that despite Bowie's injury history, they were willing to bet that he would be a better fit for the team than Michael Jordan. But we all know how that went. Sam Bowie never lived up to potential, and to this day is seen as one of the worst draft decisions in the history of the game. And that's it. One decision, and the basketball world was robbed of an opportunity to see Hakeem, MJ, and Clyde Drexler all play on the same team. One decision, and the NBA was robbed of probably the greatest dynasty we would have ever seen. But the huge question lurks in the probability of this trade. Would this team have been successful, or would the ego of these players have clashed on the court? No doubt they were all talented players. After all, Hakeem and Michael Jordan went on to be the only 2 players in their class who got a vote for the Rookie of the Year award, and all 3 players have gone on to be the greatest players in the franchises that drafted them. I know some people would say Dame was better for the Blazers than Clyde, but Clyde led the Blazers to 2 NBA Finals, while Dame was able to make it to just 1 conference final. Hakeem, Clyde, and MJ led their teams to a combined 11 NBA Finals, and at least one of them featured in every championship series from 1990 to 1998. Who knows? Maybe everything worked out just how it was supposed to be. Maybe such a team never works out because all 3 players demanded to be the alpha. Maybe the trio had played together. Instead of knowing each as one of the greatest players, we would have known 1 or 2 of them as glorified role players, or at best the supporting cast in a championship team. Or maybe they become a dynasty that dominates the NBA from the late 80s into the late 90s when they all reached the end of their primes. But for what it's worth, I guess we would never know. So if you enjoyed this video, kindly like, subscribe, but most importantly leave a comment down below and click on any of these cards on the right to watch other videos I think you would find interesting.